Hello and welcome back to another episode of Halfway Around the Halo, the LA Angels UK podcast. This is season 8, episode 8, back-to-back episodes for us, pre-deadline, post-deadline, and we are going to get all the way into what the Angels did at the deadline. They got rid of not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6, but 7 players over the deadline.
Was that enough?
Let's talk about it. How many did they pick up? 9. Now, this is what we've been talking about. Everything that we want to see from the Halos, I think it happened at the deadline. Let's roll the intro and come back and talk about just what they did.
Fires the first. The Angels have no hit. The Seattle Mariners racing back to the track. Gone! Big fly for Mike Trout. There it is. Hit number 3,000 for Albert Pujols. Gone! Big fly, Ohtani shot. Waltrout leaps up, and he got it. Oh, my! Jared has no hit. The Minnesota Twins. The Angels, world champions.
That's right, we're back the day after the trade deadline. We thought about recording last night, but you know what? For us, it might have been an early deadline. For you in California, it might have been lunchtime. It was pretty late for us over here, and we thought, let's let everything sink in a little bit. Let's digest properly and come back today and talk about what it means for the Halos. There's so much for us to go over, I think, Toby, but give me your headline take, just straight up. What's your headline take of the deadline?
My headline take is that in the long run, the Angels are in a better place.
Yeah.
I think they could have done more, but I mean, if you listen to the interim GM, who, by the way, might end up, I think he's got the bug for it again, and I think he might end up sticking around and trying to see through what he started. But we'll probably get into that later. But yeah, I think that in the long run, they're in a much better place than when they were 24 hours ago. Well,
I think that's the thing for me. This is everything that I've been calling for. The fan base has been calling for. The franchise has needed. We couldn't keep standing pat and just doing the same thing over and over again, which they've done for a decade plus now. You know, the owner has been too afraid to get rid of pieces. He's been too afraid to actually sell off the major league team. He spends his money, doesn't spend enough, but spends it. Wants fans in the seat. Ultimately, that's what he cares about. He cares about money. He thinks that if he sells off the team, people are going to stop turning up, and that affects his revenue. But finally, we got through to him. The experienced GM has come in, shows up Perry in a major way, and actually has made some quite significant moves that have altered the franchise's direction. And as you say, Toby, this is just the start. This is not enough to, it's not enough on its own. There's a few years of this that need to come. In the off-season, at the next deadline, I think we need to see very similar things. But it is a promising start. There's an infusion of talent that has come back into the system, which we're going to talk about. And I am optimistic, I think, that we've taken that first step in the right direction. Now, as with everything Angels and with Artie Moreno as owner, we all know that this could come crumbling down very quickly, and it could be false promises once again for the direction of the Angels. But I think let's take it on face value. I also think, and again, I want to talk about this later, I also think there is very much potential for the Angels to be sold at some point in the near future. I do think the moves that were made at this deadline, so untypical of what this owner has done previously, I do think it may be a precursor to the sale process we all want. We haven't touched on the lockout yet. Of course, we know that there's a major negotiation to come in the off-season. We don't even know if we will have baseball next year. We don't even know what it will look like. We don't know what the off-season will look like. So there's loads to touch on then. But Toby, first, the pieces we traded away, a couple of big major leaguers. We talked about O'Hoppe and Silseth previously, so we're going to ignore those for now. But I think the headline 2, let's touch on to start with. Jose Soriano, who went to the Blue Jays in a bit of a shock, I think, after the Blue Jays traded off Gosman. I think to trade another pitcher and to bring someone in was a bit of a shock. So that's where the main return came. Jo Adell. Obviously, you know my feelings on Jo Adell. Let's touch on that a bit more in a bit. But Jo Adell goes to the Cleveland Guardians. And actually, if we make it 3, because I think the returns are interesting, Ryan Zeffajon, who had a lot of control, a lot of promise. Probably the best thing Perry ever did was the Luis Garcia trade to Boston that brought Zeffajon in. But those 3 go. The main pieces you get back. So you've got Nimala, who is the Angels' number 2 prospect now, 43 in the majors, coming in as the headline piece there. You've got the catcher of the future coming in from the Guardians, Jay Kozar, and then actually, I think the one that people strangely are most excited by coming in from the Cubs, which is Moises Ballesteros, who is a really fun guy to root for. But they're sort of like your 3 big pieces that come into the system. Where do you want to go first with these? What are you most excited about? What were you most surprised about? What are you going to miss? And I guess, what are you looking for out of those things coming into the system?
I tell you what I was most surprised about when we had the news that Soriano had been traded, and then that teams were then calling the Blue Jays to try and trade for Soriano. So it was kind of like, was he that much in demand that the Angels could have potentially gotten even more and tried to kind of said, like, there's so many teams that want him, but I mean, you can't complain with the Angels having their new number 2 prospect, depending on which kind of publication you read. Obviously, MLB Pipeline has him as the Angels' number 2 prospect, literally 1 behind in the top 100 behind Tyler Bremner. Some publications have him ahead, so depends where you go for that. So it's either a new number 1 or number 2 prospect, which I think is a fantastic return. I mean, I don't think there's been a time where the Angels have actually got back a current top 100 prospect. Obviously, there's been former prospects that the Angels always try and make a project out of. Couple of those as well that they have gotten in a couple of trades, Ballesteros being one of those. So yeah, I think the returns are really good. Obviously going to be sad to see them go. I mean, Joe Adell's 3 home run robberies this year, and then the kind of game winning run in the same game is amazing. But for every one of those, you have a ball bouncing off his head and going for a home run. So you know what you're going to get. As you say, we've spoken about Joe Adell umpteen time. Last year seems very much like a one-off more than a sign of things to come, and he's very much regressed back to what everyone knows he is. But against left-handed pitching, he's very effective. So the Guardians don't need him to be an everyday outfielder. They've got him for his prowess against left-handed pitching, which is what he's there for, and I really hope he is successful in it and gets to play in the playoffs. Same with Soriano. Probably not going to be this year for Soriano with the Blue Jays, kind of being threading the needle, I guess, is how you describe how they did. They bought and sold, and I think the Blue Jays had a very, very good deadline, selling off pieces with expiring contracts and bringing back pieces with more control, ready to go again next year, because they've got so many injuries and so many guys having down years that they've kind of punted on this year, tried to get what they could and kind of reset for next year. So I really like what they did. And yeah, like I say, the return for Zeffajon, huge.
Yeah. We're not here to talk about what the Blue Jays did, though, are we? We're here to talk about the Angels. No, I agree with you. I mean, I think some key things there from what you're saying. On Soriano, the guy's had 2 Tommy John surgeries. To get the return we have, to get Nimala, who actually, he's everything you want from a future shortstop. Everyone says the defense is there. He is going to stick at the position. He's getting better and better. The power, there's natural power there. He's starting to use that more. He looks like he is going to be... he's going to be an important piece for the Halos in maybe 2 years' time. Maybe with the way the Halos bring people up, it could be back in the next year. But
is that changing, though? Is that trying to change it with how quickly the Angels bring people up? We don't know.
But I hope it is. I mean, I really hope they give him the time to develop and to get better within the system itself, to learn the Angels' way. Well, actually, or maybe not. If time goes. But I really liked that return. Obviously, he wasn't the only one that came in there. We got a really nice young reliever that has had a good season. Still just a lottery ticket, effectively.
Angel Rivero,
yeah. And then Eddie Micheletti, who probably is a 4th outfielder type guy, but he's having a really good year again. Really good, I think, defensively. Again, touching into some power, good OPS. You never know. That's the sort of guy you bring into the system. You don't know what they're going to do, but it's the sort of thing that we need. We don't have enough of, and players that could potentially get up to the majors fairly quickly. So I really like that return on Soriano, a guy who we loved. I mean, early in the season, we're obviously talking about like Soriano and that really incredible start. And actually, even through the season, he's still pitching very, very well, other than the fact he doesn't quite have the command or the control to limit the walks.
Leads the league in walks, yeah.
Yeah, which has always been the downside with him. But the stuff is electric, as we know. It is incredible. The Blue Jays are going to really enjoy him. Wish him every success in the world there. Speaking of stuff, Zephyr John the same. I think we saw it in patches for the Halos, didn't we? The talent was clearly there. The ability is there. The arm's there. But I don't think we saw it consistently enough. I'm not sure mentally it's all there.
We saw it for one inning at a time.
Yeah.
He very kind of, I guess, infamously throughout the season, in one inning was electric. You brought him back for a second inning, and just the wheels completely fell off.
But I have no problem with that, though. That wasn't his job. His job was to do one innings, just because the Angels decided to utilise him in a way that was ineffective for his game. I think that's on the Angels, not him personally. But I love the return there. I mean, again, Ballesteros has his critics. He has his flaws. He is effectively positionless. I know we're going to start him at catcher, but let's see how that experiment goes as a long-term catcher. He obviously can take some DH spots for the Halos, but really he doesn't have a defensive position, which means he has to hit. And whilst he's shown he can hit Major League pitching, not well enough to cover off the fact he doesn't have a position per se. So he is going to be interesting. I'm really excited. He is the sort of, I mean, he was a top 100 guy just before he no longer
coming into the year, really.
Yeah, so that is the sort of guy you want in. You also get the Cubs. I think it was their 18th prospect, was it? That's now our 15th or 16th.
Mason McGuire, yes, son of Mark McGuire. Yes, he's now our 15th prospect.
I think reliever, but he has been going between starting and relieving. So we'll see what the Angels want to do with him. I'm sure they'll keep him starting as long as possible. But again, really nice return. And then on Adele. So I guess in classic Angels fashion, they probably missed the prime opportunity to trade him, which was last off-season, last winter, because he had the year of his life last year. He was highly unlikely to replicate it this year. And to be honest, Major League teams probably knew that. I mean, I'm sure the underlying numbers said that. However, to trade him now, I still think is the right thing to do. He's only going to get more expensive. He could well have been a DFA candidate in the off season. I'm not sure they wanted to continue to pay him more money, as they would have to have done under the ARB process, and actually to get back the catcher of the future, right? Whether or not he is a backup catcher, which it looks like, he's a defense-first guy. We talked about this on the last pod, didn't we? There is nothing wrong with having a defensive-first catcher in the way that Kozar is. I think I've been watching some of his stuff today. I mean, incredible framer. Really just looks like a catcher. Something we haven't seen for quite a while in the Halos. Between O'Hoppe and Travis d'Arnaud, I mean, we're not getting the best defensive catching. So I was really excited to see him come back. It's not sexy. Obviously, he was just a mid-prospect for the Guardians, who have a better system than we do. But Jacob Kozar is potentially someone, again, that I think matches the same sort of timelines maybe as Nimala, and actually could come up, whether it's back in the next year, the year after that, and make an impact. The same as Juan Flores in the system. And I think now it's looking like we've got two promising young catchers that could come up and help the Major League team in the next couple of years.
Yeah, so he's come in to be the number 19 overall Angels prospect, right next to, I should say, Juan Flores. If anyone is unfamiliar with Juan Flores, he's currently in Rocket City, catching there. The Angels made umpteen minor league moves kind of over the last day, shifting people around, moving people up, moving people down, releasing people. But I think Juan Flores has stayed in Double A, so that's where he is currently. So yeah, there's a couple of young catchers there, both with, like you say, promise, which is something the Angels just haven't had. You can say it throughout the piece that they've got back, is that there's a lot of promise there. There's a lot of guys who, some of them are more known, obviously, with Nimala being a top 100 prospect, top 50 prospect, but there's guys there that you just never know, and they could be something, which you can't really say that the Angels have done a lot. It's been very much more, well, they're high floor, low ceiling kind of types, where they come out of college playing well and they're going to be quick to the majors, and the Angels have kind of gone back on that. There's a lot of guys that they've traded for who are kind of under 21, so younger than a lot of what of the Angels draft picks have been previously. So, if they're picking up those guys, they do very much have an eye on the future, which I don't mind. I don't mind them being bad now, because it's with an eye on the future. Whereas the thing that's frustrated us and a lot of the fan base is it's just been losing for the sake of it. There's been absolutely zero direction.
Yeah. Precisely.
They still haven't been good enough. But now there's a clear plan and direction of, well, we're getting ready for the future. I don't mind them being bad now. Until then, these guys are then ready, and then you'd expect some improvement. So I don't mind it now.
I couldn't agree more. That was always the frustration. They're going to lose anyway, but yet they're doing nothing to look to the future to try and win. They are just standing and doing the same thing over and over again. So I fully agree with you. I've got to be honest, I don't think they're going to be much worse than they already were. I look at the pieces that have gone, and I Hoppy was offering absolutely nothing, right? Joe Adele, fine, he's been okay, but that's about it.
He's been below average though. Joe Adele's been a below average. Like, you can find a below average outfielder who offers better defense and offers the same at the plate for Joe as Joe Adele.
Exactly. Negative WAR. I mean, people don't necessarily always like WAR but I think it gives some indication of the player we're losing. Silseth, Zephyr, Kirby Yates we haven't talked about, but what a great bit of business that
What
is.
a trade.
To get anything.
My favourite trade.
For Kirby Yates. And also Brent Suter. I mean, actually, Brent Suter, I will give a modicum of credit to, because early in the season, he blew a couple of games to the Halos and he was a bit of a disaster. However, he's been asked to come in and almost settle things down so often this season, hasn't he? He's basically been thrown into every possible situation and done a fairly reasonable job in those circumstances. So you know what? I don't mind that. But again, it was good to trade him. But you look at all of these pieces, I don't think any of them are making us that much worse. Quite frankly, we're still to see who's coming back to the Major League team, I think. I don't think they've announced quite some of those moves. We know Ryan Johnson's coming back up as one of the pieces, but I don't know who else is going to be there. But quite frankly, I'm excited. Like, if you can get Christian Moore back up, you've got Guzman playing every day, get Grissom in there every day. Some of these guys, right, that we all want to see. Get rid of, we haven't mentioned, I mean, Jorge Soler, DFA today.
Breaking news, yeah.
Couldn't find a trade partner for him, so he's gone. Adam Frazier, get him gone. Like, get rid of these veterans now. We don't need them. Play the young guys. Give them the rest of the season. Losing doesn't matter anymore. It's going to be 100 losses. That's fine. Get your draft pick. Make sure you make the most of it. At the next deadline, let's keep selling off. Let's keep doing what we can. But yeah, there is a direction now. Just a slight direction, and that is what we're going to have to cling on to. The two guys that didn't get traded, obviously, Reed Detmers, who I'll let you into a little secret on. I actually was there when he threw a no-hitter for the Halos in person at the stadium. But let's just...
According to one insider, he was traded, which turned out to be fake news.
It was fake news. But he is still at the Halos, and I did still see a no-hitter thrown by him. But keep that to yourself. And secondly, Zach Neto. Now, I think it's just a stay of execution, personally, because, again, depending on lockout situation, they are quite clearly going to be shopped again in the off-season to see what we can get. I mean, the GM basically said he was open to trading them now. We were shopping them around. He didn't like any of the offers enough to pull the trigger, and that's why they're still here. Absolutely fine with me. I've got no problem with either of those being Halos going forward. But again, if you're not going to sign them longer term, and they're not going to match up with the new timelines that it looks like we're setting for ourselves as a franchise, they have to go. But I guess for us, I'm still happy they're here. Would I have traded them? Yes. If the return wasn't there, am I happy they're still here? Yes.
I completely agree. I do think that getting back Nimala and also Nacho Alvarez for Suter that we got, who's another kind of former top prospect who has had a little bit of, he's had enough major league action to not be a prospect anymore and hasn't really found it. And potentially there's a bit there with him as well. I think that shows that they don't see Neto as their long-term shortstop, which is fine. Again, I was a little bit more negative than you on a pre-deadline pod, being like, I'm just kind of a bit done with him now. I feel like he is what he is, and he's not going to get any better from what he is. Just, I don't know. I think he needs his head needs a bit of a wobble to kind of just focus a bit more. And I feel like the distraction of the trade deadline maybe caused some of it. I don't know. Maybe thinking that he hadn't got a long-term deal, seeing all these other young players across the league get deals, and he was kind of, I guess, wanting one. He's not got one. I feel like maybe upset him. I don't know. But then, yeah, I feel like he could be one that gets moved on, as you say, lockout dependent in the off season or going into next year. Detmers, I think, you can't really argue that he is now the Angels' number one starter in the rotation. So he is potentially one. He's still young enough that he could be one to potentially be your frontline starter. If that's where you see his progress going, he could be one that the Angels hold on to long term. But I don't remember the last Angel pitcher they actually signed a contract like extended from within the team. So if that's another shift of direction where they're actually going to sign their own guys too, as pitchers especially, then I'm all for that too. So yeah, it's I am like I say, if the returns weren't as good as the GM wanted, then fine, keep them here. Don't just trade for the sake of trading because then then that is just a losing mentality. So no, I'm glad they're here because he couldn't get what he wanted from them. So yeah, by all means, keep them around.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think this leads me on to the question then. We've just sort of touched on there. So we asked before this podcast, the UK Angels group, if they had any questions for us. Actually, I will shout that group out because it was really fun yesterday. Halos across the ponds here. Just really enjoying the trade deadline, all of the breaking news coming into that group and being able to discuss it. Like, you probably take that for granted. If you're listening here in Anaheim, California, even across the States, you take for granted the fact you always got people to talk baseball with. We don't have that here in the same way. It's still a niche sport. It still have to work quite hard to find people to discuss this with. For example, in everyday life, I went to work today. Not a single person there knew it was the trade deadline yesterday. Nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody brings it up. So actually to have that group is really special. And if you are a UK Angel that is listening to this, you're not in there already, do just drop me a message. I'm very happy to add you in. But Toby, question from Johnny, I think the first one to ask is, will we keep Neto for long?
I think next deadline is will be his last time, like ultimately last time. He'll either go in the off season or by the next deadline. I don't see him sticking around any longer than that, probably because he's only got 2 years left of control, so kind of next year and then a year beyond that. So he's got control till 2028, I believe. So yeah, he'll have kind of 1 year plus of control next year. So I feel like that will be his time coming short, because hopefully by that point you'll have Nimala ready to step into his shoes and ready to kind of pick up where he left off playing shortstop for the Angels. So I think he's basically got another year, unless he blows the Angels away in the off season with his work, comes in next year and is an absolute superstar that we thought he could and should be. If he proves to be that, maybe they change their mind, but maybe that just means that the return they get from him is bigger. Either way, I don't see him sticking around long term.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I don't think you shop someone like Zach Neto at the deadline with an intention to sign him long term. I think clearly that is not what they want to do. It doesn't fit with their windows. Paying another guy like superstar money, it hasn't got us anywhere previously. You've got to change approach. I like what they're doing. GM Mo said it himself, didn't he? We had to do something different. This is doing that something different. Like, I would love Zach Neto to stick around in abstract, but I totally understand what the Angels are trying to do with this. And actually, you've just got to support them and back them to say it's the right thing for the franchise. So again, I think he'll be gone in the off season. The only way that this is different, is, if I touched on earlier, if RT Moreno goes, new owner comes in, opens the checkbook up and says, you know what, Zach, why would I get rid of Zach Neto at this point? Like, I don't need to. I'm willing to pay premium for free agents. I'm willing to make this an attractive proposition for players to come to. So I'm going to keep Zach Neto around. That's the only way I think he stays, personally. But let's see. I mean, I think time will tell with that one. Phineas asked a really interesting question as well next up. And actually, just shout out Phineas for agreeing to take on the challenge we set last time. Apparently, fine with the beers, but the hot dogs might be a problem. But let's see. But good man, Phineas. Thank you so much for your service to the UK Angels and halfway around the halo. But Phineas asked, is the scouting good enough for the fans to rely on the results? Which I think is a really interesting question. Not something we can necessarily answer right now, but I do share some of his concerns in that we haven't had a great track record scouting previously. It's been very hit and miss. Actually, Mo hasn't necessarily got the best track record himself in previous trades when he was with the Cardinals. He also was not necessarily known as the best talent evaluator on trades. So, Toby, how do you feel about that question?
It's like you say, it's a question that you can't answer because you don't know until you're a few years down the line and you see what these players have become, where you'll know if you made a good deal or not. That's kind of the whole thing with kind of assigning a prospect value. It's like, well, from what they've shown, they're good enough talents, but for what they are, I think the one for me that he will be holding his hat on is Arendondo that we got for Silseth and O'Hoppy, who was just a name in the Rangers system.
Yeah.
Who he said should slot into the Angels, would be in the top 10. He slotted in as the 28th Angels prospect, according to MLB Publine. So, yeah, he's come in and made the top 30, but that's because the Angels system was so weak. Traditionally, if you talk scouting as a whole in terms of drafting as well, they didn't have much control. It was very much Perry who led the way in drafting, and the Angels have had a couple of hits. Drafting, I feel like in baseball is one of the hardest things to do because it is such an unknown, because it is such a hard sport to do at the elite level. But the Angels, I would say, have been one of the worst at it. You look at their farm system, it's been one of the worst for a long time. So hopefully that does begin to change with the deadline and kind of the draft that they just had with the influx of talent coming into there. So hopefully, trusting the scouts to do their job and kind of recommend prospects, recommend players, and kind of, because I'm sure that the GM Mo, as we're calling him, I'm sure he did have input from the scouts and other people across the league about prospects. So yeah, hopefully we can trust them, but it's a question that you won't know until you're a few years down the line.
Yeah, I think that's fair. We have to give him a chance. I mean, the Angel system looks worse as well because of the early graduations, right? Because we moved players up so quickly through the system. It obviously was it wasn't good in the first place, but it was made to look worse than it was because of the impact they were having at major league level instead of minor league level. I did really like the draft this year, though. I mean, again, time will tell on what it turns out to be, but the change of approach was very apparent, I think. And I think we give them an opportunity now to continue this into the off-season, into next season, and see where it goes. Third question I've got for you from Charlie Selwood, and shout out Charlie, who is going to his first Halos game soon enough, if there's any players left, as he was worried about. But actually, I think another really good question is how next season looks with our trades up to this point, and your thoughts on potential trades in the off-season based on the current strategy. Now, we've touched on some of this. We do think there's going to be more trading in the off-season. But how do you think next season lines up? I guess right now, crystal ball, how do you think we approach this off-season in terms of signings for the major league team, as well as trying to put the talent into the minors?
Well, I think it's already up in the air because of your potential lockout. So with the potential lockout, the major contention is your salary cap and your salary floor. So the Angels, by virtue of keeping Anthony Rendon's money on their salary for next year, means that they'll be above the salary floor. So they won't have to just fill spots in the roster by signing random players to inflated contracts, because that's what I think a couple of teams are going to have to do, is just overspend to hit a salary floor if/when one gets put in. So signings wise, I don't think they're going to make any major splashes but the problem is that the way that MLB currently works is you can't be in the draft lottery 2 years in a row.
Yeah.
So the Angels this year are able to be in the lottery.
We're back.
They will end up with a top 3 pick this year, or kind of for next year's draft, because they weren't able to this year, so they ended up picking. Was it 12th? I think
12th,
they picked.
Yeah.
So they are able to be back in the lottery next year. So kind of they might want to be more competitive, knowing that they can't have a top 10 draft pick. So you might see them spend a little bit more money, but also with an eye on kind of 2028, when a lot of these prospects that they have traded for at this deadline are going to be all major league ready. So I think there might be a little bit of a trying to be more competitive, but also not win too many games, because I don't think they will think that they are playoff ready. Although, the Chicago White Sox have just gone from losing 100 games for the last 2 years to leading the AL Central. So who knows what's going to happen?
Yeah, it is an interesting question. I mean, I think the strategy set out now is fairly obvious if they stick to it, if they're allowed to stick to it. That's the thing, isn't it? It's been obvious this deadline, but unfortunately, we have a fairly unpredictable owner in some ways that will he want to continue this? Will he see his bottom line hit? Will fans decide next year, you know what, if the Angels sell off Neto and Detmers in the off-season and whoever else, are they going to buy their season tickets? Are they going to turn up? Will the owner accept that? I don't know. That's my concern, I guess, with this owner in place. But I think moving in the right direction. I think you're probably right. I think they'll look to be better next year, but I don't think they will have any real intention of winning. Even if they can't make the lottery, though, they
have no incentive to lose next year because they can't be in the lottery. That's a better way of saying what I was trying to say then.
Yeah, but even then, it's only the first round that matters, and actually, you slide back up to the top of the draft in the rest of the rounds, don't you? So I still think they would be happy to lose. And also, there's a difference, I guess, between picking 11th or 12th versus 20th. I think there's a fairly significant difference there as well. So let's see what the Angels do. But thanks to the questions from the guys there, really appreciate that. And for the next episode, do keep them coming in. Something else we haven't touched on today, the promotions you talked about earlier. Tyler Bremner is the most interesting one, I think, who after a very mixed spell at high A, I would quite frankly say, it's been moved to double A fairly quickly in typical Angels fashion. That's where he's really going to be tested, isn't it? What do you think about that promotion? Is it too early or is it the right move for him?
I think it's the right move. He has actually been performing very well recently. He's been kind of getting a lot of strikeouts. So I think and as a guy who's coming out of college as well, why not test him at a higher level? Rocket City has kind of basically been the platform for a lot of Angels to go straight to the majors. It's a lot of players who were transplants have gone straight from AA, skipped AAA and gone straight up. So kind of Zach Neto, Nolan Shanuel, Christian Moore, even when he came up, a lot of them came up straight from AA. Luke Murphy is just in that picture. So yeah, that's kind of where the Angels see their best silent development, or they have done anyway. So I think it's a good place for him to go and test himself. It's a shame it's come a few weeks after I went and watched a Trash Pandas game. It would have been nice to see the Angels' most recent first round pick play and kind of see what he's about. But it's exciting for him to do it, I think, and it's also a good chance to test him against some better prospects and see how he fares.
Yeah, I'm very interested to see how he does. I've got no problem with the promotion per se, but I don't want to rush him. I don't think we need to rush him. As we talked about, put him back on that same trajectory as some of these other guys we've just brought in. Don't need to rush him up unnecessarily and ruin that development, because there still is plenty of development to be done there. Of course, he's not the Angels' most recent number one pick anymore, is he? He is
in the system. He's the Angels' most recent first round pick.
Yeah. But we have moved on. Times have moved on. But yeah, I'm excited to see what he can do there. It has been a bit of a place where prospects are make or break for the Angels. We've really seen the cream rise to the top there and be moved up. So hopefully Bremner has success there, but he's got time to figure things out. The guy I want to talk about is Mike Trout. Now, what do you make of the quotes we saw about how Mike Trout was brought into the trade room to see how it all works? Had a conversation with a couple of weeks ago about not wanting to be traded. I mean, we all know Mike Trout absolutely loves Southern California, loves Newport Beach, doesn't want to move his family, loves his lifestyle there. I think he does love the Angels. I do think he probably loves the lifestyle more than the team at this point. I couldn't really blame him. But again, he's still there. He's going to be there forever. Doesn't want to be traded. But what did you think about the process, I guess, bringing him into the draft room, the trade room, and actually just talking about what the Halos were doing?
I loved that the GM asked him a few weeks ago when he was kind of putting together his plan for the trade deadline whether Mike Trout wanted to be included or kind of felt like his time had run its course. And I think that's a really important thing to do, is have that communication with him rather than trade deadline comes, suddenly Mike Trout gets a phone call from the GM and it's like, can you waive your no trade clause because we've got a move for you? I do like that they kind of put that plan in place and had the conversations weeks prior just to kind of just generally see where he felt about the organisation and the fact that he wants to stay. Like you say, could be more to do with staying in Southern California than it would be staying on the Angels. But yeah, I like it. And then bringing him into the trade room when you've got your superstar who's coming towards the end of his career. Why not get him involved? Why not bring him in? Because keeping that relationship healthy, I think, is very important, especially with your superstar player, because it just shows that you do care about their life beyond baseball. I think that does get forgotten about a lot, where players are just seen as where they are for the player, and as soon as their career, like Mike Trout struggled a lot with injury, so he might just decide one day to just call it and be like, you know what, I'm fed up being injured, I'm fed up putting my body through this pain and just not really recovering or just not feeling healthy and waking up sore, and he might just get too much for him one day that he decides to hang it up. So knowing that he's being involved in the process and he could potentially stick around in the organization, I think is better for everybody.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, I'd be shocked if Mike Trout wasn't a part of the Angels organization for forever almost. I don't think he wants to go anywhere. I think once he retires, he'll be in and around the team at many opportunities, probably be given some sort of ambassadorial role. He also doesn't really like the limelight, though, does he? Quite frankly, he's quite happy just to keep himself to himself with his family. You know, cares about these things, loves the Eagles, goes hunting in the off season, loves God.
Got his golf course.
Got his golf course, precisely, business interests. But yeah, I was really thrilled actually that they brought Trout into that process. Open communication with him is so important. The amount he's given this franchise over the years, he deserves the utmost respect and to be treated exactly how he wants to be treated. And yes, the injuries have been frustrating for us all. We have paid him a significant amount of money. We, speaking Artie Moreno, but as the Angels organization paid him
We've contributed to that money.
We have just about, although not loads, because yeah, we have. But yeah, we'll see what the future holds for Mike Trout, I think. But again, another deadline goes by, another losing season goes by, where he really has shown zero interest in being traded. And actually, we're going to get to a point, right, where nobody's going to even want to trade for him. Why would they? I mean, you're not getting Mike Trout of old, are you? You're getting a slugger that will probably hit some over the fence for you, but you'll probably be quite disappointed. He may be a DH on a better team as well, because I don't think his defensive production matches up with some of these World Series contenders. I just don't think there's a place for him, particularly in centre field, maybe in the corners if they're pushing it. So for Mike and for us, I think the best thing to do is to keep him there. We've got no reason to trade him. Mike's got no reason to be traded, quite frankly. I think that idea of winning, I'm sure we'd love to still win. I'm sure we'd love to get into the playoffs. I'm sure we'd love to give him the ring that he deserves for the career he's had. But I think he's probably realised those are slipping away quite a lot. That time is slipping away. And we're in a position now where this is probably the best thing for both of us, just to ride it out.
Yeah, definitely. I also think that Mike Trout isn't especially known for his clutch hitting, which is something that you need come October. So that's another reason why teams might be a little bit more hesitant. And his numbers as a DH haven't been great. He's better when he's engaged throughout the entire game rather than engaged every 9 at-bats. So, yeah, I think that he is basically I feel like he's pretty much an untradeable asset now. You're not going to bring in a great return for, you say, an aging Mike Trout who's striking out more, making contact less, and isn't as effective in the field. So, yeah, he's pretty much untradeable now. So we just got to ride it out and hope that just hope and pray, as Mike Trout would, that the Angels do find some success and we can actually take him back to the playoffs.
Yeah, absolutely. Fingers crossed for Mike Trout there. We all want to see him succeed. We wanted to see him succeed as an Angel. Lineups out for tonight. I just want to, 2 things, actually talk about some real live baseball, because I think there's some fantastic bits of interest. One, shout out Wilbert Urena for the win on Sunday.
Yes,
absolutely incredible win. Both him and Miz hit their lines on Ks, which I know made some people in the Angels group very happy, but also just a really standout win. He's looking phenomenal. If it wasn't for the hitters in the Rookie of the Year race, I think he's got to be right up there. At least people are now putting him in a conversation, not a conversation to win it, but his name is mentioned as an other notable name that could be included in that. So shout out to him.
Yeah, I mean, outpitching Jacob Mizorowski, who is pretty much going to win a Cy Young Award. Yeah. Outpitching him is on on a nationally televised game as well, like Sunday afternoon baseball, is not a mean feat to do. And obviously, Mizorowski, I don't know how much attention people paid to his post-game comments of saying that the mound was terrible, even though Urena had outpitched him. So I think that's just kind of sour grapes from the Miz. The Miz obviously did get his plenty of strikeouts, plenty of 100-mile-an-hour pitches. Urena more than matched him with the 100-mile-an-hour pitches, doing a few of his own and got enough strikeouts and kind of didn't give up any runs, which led to the win. So yeah, very, very well done from him for sure.
Absolutely. And now on to the bits of interest tonight. There's a lot to talk about here. So let me just.
This is breaking news as well. This is
firstly, I mean, not so breaking, but Grayson Rodriguez returns to Baltimore for the start tonight. B. Moises Ballesteros is in the lineup for the Halos, activated and in the lineup, hitting in the 6th hole. Thirdly, probably the most exciting bit of news: Ben Joyce is back. Ben Joyce has been activated and is up with the Halos. That is exciting.
I think my prediction from early in the season is true, because I'm pretty sure in one of our early podcasts I said he wouldn't be back until after the trade deadline.
Well, it's the game after the trade deadline.
I'm pretty sure. Look at me. My prediction's coming true.
Less exciting, Adam Frazier is back. He has been activated. Ryan Johnson has been recalled, as we talked about earlier. Another one selected. Not a name I'm particularly familiar with. Blake Vyman from the Trash Pandas, a reliever from there. He's been called up. And finally, you're going to love this one. He's back again. Sean Anderson. Sean Anderson is back on the Halos.
So when does he get DFA'd again? Is he actually going to stick around longer than a couple of weeks this time?
Probably not, but Sean Anderson is back. They are your 5 moves today for the Halos. So Ben Joyce is obviously the most exciting bit there, as is Ballesteros in the lineup. Grayson Rodriguez coming back. I mean, they're the interesting bits. Blake Vyman, who knows? But I'm going to go and do some research after this and actually find out what we've got there. But what do you think? Ben Joyce back. Is it too soon? Have they taken their time with him? I mean, it feels like they've been very cautious all the way through this. Let's fingers crossed that he doesn't break down again and can have a good back end to the season.
I mean, Ben Joyce is going to break down again. When you throw that... what I have noticed, though, actually, is that he's not thrown as hard in his kind of rehab assignments as he did before he got injured. So, obviously, he had the fastest ever strikeout pitch of, I think it was 105 or 106 miles an hour, effectively rounded. And I think his fastest pitch in his rehabs has been 102.8, I think. So he's not thrown... I mean, that's still ridiculously fast pitching, but obviously not as hard. And whether that's just because his body can't do it or whether he's managing how fast he's throwing, it remains to be seen. So hopefully he is just managing his body a little bit better and he's just kind of being a bit more effective with his pitches than just trying to sling it as hard as he can and hope that he can stay a bit healthier. If he can stay healthy, he should close games and hopefully get more than 4 saves between now and the end of the year to be the team leader.
I'd be shocked if he wasn't back into that closer role fairly quickly. Blake Vyman, by the way, we signed as a minor league free agent in the off-season. He used to be formerly with the Houston Astros, and this will be his major league debut if he gets into the game for the Angels. So good luck to Blake. Obviously, he has come up and shown something to the Halos. Left-handed pitcher, needed in the bullpen. Good luck to Blake.
Yeah, very much so. Left-handed pitcher, obviously, we replaced. Well, I guess we'll be replacing Brent Suter, left-hander at the bullpen, trying to eat up a couple of innings. So hopefully, if he sees some action, hopefully he can do well with it for sure.
Definitely. Any Halo or Hell No tonight?
I can just do what I did the other night and try and make some up and see where we go.
Let's see what you've got off the top of the dome.
I guess we'll start off with kind of how you open it to me. The Angels franchise is in a better place.
Yeah, Halo. I mean, that's what we talked about the whole time. It's a very low bar, but there are shoots of life there, and that's what we're going to hope for, and we've got to cling on to. So yes, Halo to that one.
We will see Iron Nimala before the end of this season.
Absolutely not. Hell no. Even the Angels aren't that stupid. I don't think they're that stupid. He's still got plenty of work to be done before.
I had to give you one hell no in there, didn't I? GM John Mozeliak will stick as the full-time GM after this season.
Halo. I think that's the way the wind is going. It can still change. I mean, there's so much we've talked about: lockout, ownership, whatever. There's lots of factors that could affect that. But I think as things stands now, what he did at the deadline wasn't the moves of a guy that was in the job temporarily, in my view. I think he was taking a longer term outlook on things. I actually think if he wasn't looking longer term, Detmers and Neto would have both gone, right? I think he'd have just taken whatever the best offer was, they'd have gone. He'd have shown that, look, I can bring all of this talent into the system. But I think he knew that he wants them here for now whilst we figure out what we can do with them and what we could get the best offer for them on.
Yeah, no, I agree. I am surprised that he couldn't get a great return for what he thought would have been a great return for Detmers, because a lot of the starting pitchers that were moved at the deadline were moved for quite hefty prices. So I don't know if his kind of price tag was kind of too high on what he thought Detmers was, or the returns weren't great. But I am surprised that Detmers wasn't moved, considering the pitchers that were moved at the deadline for quite hefty prices. Anyway,
we'll never know this, but I do think the Cubs got cold feet on a Detmers deal, and it may have looked fairly far advanced, and then they pulled out and actually pivoted both to Braxton Garrett, but also to Ryan Zephyr-John. And actually, Ballesteros was probably always coming back to the Halos. I think we obviously would have wanted one of their top guys to come with him as well, and I think the Cubs probably said no to that fairly late on, pivoted to Braxton Garrett, and then we got a different trade. That would be my suspicion there. Purely guesswork, but it does seem like there was a lot of chatter around Detmers and the Cubs for quite a significant period of the day, and actually in the run up to it. So I don't think there's any smoke without fire there.
Yeah. Sean Anderson gets DFA'd next week.
Halo. I think that's inevitable, right? As soon as we need an arm, as soon as we need something fresh, as soon as we need a 40-man spot, he's gone. Signed back to Salt Lake, and he'll be back up again before the end of the season.
You never know. This might be the actual time he sticks around to the end of the season, because the Angels have got no arms left. You never know. You never know.
There's plenty of arms in the system. Whether they're good or not is another question.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, they must see some enough in Sean Anderson to keep bringing him back, but I think him out of the bullpen, you never know. He might take up the Brent Suter role of just eating innings, just kind of being there, slowing things, kind of throwing things down, steadying the ship of a game that's either gone awry or the starter's not gone very, very deep, and he'll just be in there for a few innings. So that might just be his role as your mid to long reliever for the end of the year. So I do hope, kind of for his sake, that he doesn't kind of get DFA'd again. It will be, I'm sure he's got the record of DFAs with the same team or something like that. But yeah, it is funny, just the inevitable, kind of seeing him get selected and then like, well, he'll be gone after he pitches a couple of times. So
100%. Anyway, we'll cut it off there. The Halos are in Baltimore now. They're returning. Let's see what the rest of the season.
Not going to see Taylor Ward.
No, that stings. Friend of the show, Taylor Ward, traded to the Mariners. I wish
the Mariners of all places as well.
I wish him loads of success, but just not there. I can't do it. So I hope it's a short stint. I hope he signs somewhere much nicer in the off season. He can even come home if he wants to take a discount and come play back with the Halos. But yeah, it was tough to see him go to the Mariners.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, I think the only, like I say, he is a friend of the show. So yeah, hopefully he can do well, but not well enough that the Mariners kind of win, because the Mariners famously haven't won a World Series. So hopefully that remains the same.
Absolutely. I just want to talk about something quite serious for a second here. It happens to loads of people. So viewers watching this may think that I've been extra like fidgety, a bit like, my blinking a bit more. So during the course of this podcast, I've been having a bit of an anxiety attack from the start. It's one of those things I get sporadically, right? I know a lot of men get it. A lot of people get it. Don't necessarily want to talk about it, but I just wanted to say it's okay to talk about it. It's okay that this happens. People have different ways of coping, different mechanisms. But it's just one of those things. But I try and power through it. I try to just keep going. I try to not let it affect me because ultimately there is nothing wrong. It's fight or flight. And I just thought, you know what? None of you would have ever noticed. It's very high functioning quite a lot of the time. I wrote about this once before. Actually, Sam Bloom wrote about it with The Athletic previously. Some of the struggles I'd had when I was in Anaheim now, we're talking like 7 years ago. Some of the things that happened to me then when things were particularly bad, panic attacks were particularly bad, and actually things have improved massively. But I just wanted to just flag that to viewers. Very open and transparency that it happens. Things are okay. You can talk about it. It's okay to talk about it. But yeah, go Halos. But I just wanted to put that on the radar, talk about it, make myself feel better, quite frankly, that we can be open and honest. On a podcast where we are now, whatever time it is left, we're now 50 minutes in, for example. And if you're still listening at this point, you're a real one. And that's what I know. But anyway, on that note, thank you for listening. Go subscribe if you don't already. I say it every time. And go Halos. Toby?
Go Halos. Thank you for sharing.